All right, hello there. We are going to get started today, and we are going to be working on solving one-step inequalities, and then we'll continue working on graphing inequalities like we did yesterday. So let's start really quickly by just reviewing some of our algebra concepts that we have. So for example, let's say that we have the problem x plus 5 equals 6. And so just a couple of reminders. When we're doing algebra, we want to add or subtract the constant on both sides of the equation in order to isolate our variable. In this situation, it's our x term. So to do that, we would do the opposite operation, and we would need to do it to both sides. Remember, in algebra, what we do to one side, we must also do to the other. And so right here, we're going to come in and we are going to take 5 away right here because we want to isolate this variable right here. Isolate, remember, means to separate it from other numbers. And so the only way to do that is to, instead of add 5 to it, is to take away 5. And so then again in algebra, to keep everything nice and balanced, what I do to one side, I must also do to the other. That doesn't want to write today. So when we do that, this part right here would cancel out. We'd be left with x on the left-hand side of the equation, and we'd be left with the positive 1 over here on this side because 6 minus 5, for some reason that won't write today. There it goes, is 1. Let's see. Let's do one where, so that is the subtraction property of equality, meaning that if we subtract the same number from both sides, we end up with the same answer. Let's try one where we are using the addition property of equality. So our problem this time is going to be x minus 2 equals 4. And so right here, what we would want to do is we would want to add 2 again, because that allows this right here to cancel out. And what I do to one side, I would do to the other. So I come over and I'm left with x on the left-hand side of the equation, and 4 plus 2 would be 6. Again, it's always important to come back in and check our work. So if we plugged 6 in right here in place of x, 6 minus 2 does equal 4, so we know we're right here. Over here on the first one, we plug 1 back in, 1 plus 5 equals 6, and so we know that our answer there is correct. All right, I am going to erase this, and we're going to do the subtraction, or the multiplication and division properties of equality really quickly. All right, so if we take a number such as 9x and it equals 3. Now we have to be careful right here because a lot of us want to take and divide by 3, but we would not want to divide by 3 because 3 is not our coefficient. 9 is our coefficient. Remember, we want to divide by our coefficient. So we're going to take and divide this side by 9 in order to isolate or to solve for x. So when we do that, 9 divided by 9 leaves me with 1x. But again, what I do to one side, I would also want to do to the other. And so we divide this side by 9. 3 divided by 9 would simplify down into 1/3 as our answer. All right, let's do one more. Let's do x divided by 4 equals 5. So again, this time we're going to use the multiplication property of equality. And to do that, what we want to do is we want to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So this technically is 1/4 x. And so if you take that and you find the reciprocal of 1/4, it would be 4 over 1. So then we've just got a multiplying fractions problem. So we cross reduce here and cross reduce here. And so that leaves us with x on the left-hand side of the equation. But again, what I do to one side, I do to the other. So if we multiply by 4 on the left-hand side, we would need to come over and multiply by 4 on the right-hand side. And so our answer would be 20. again, let's always make sure that we are plugging those numbers back in and checking our work. So we come over here, 9 times 1/3. Go ahead and make that into a fraction, and you can see those would cross reduce, and that would give you 3. So that checks and is correct. Over here, if we come and we plug 5 in, or I'm sorry, excuse me. Oops, let's try that again. If we come in here and in place of x, if we plug in the number 20, 20 divided by 4 does equal 5, so that checks and is correct. So that's a little review for us on algebra. Hopefully we are good to go on that. Now, the reason that we are reviewing that is because we are going to now take those same types of problems and we're going to work on an inequality. The nice thing about an inequality is there are some new other rules we're going to work on tomorrow, but for today we're going to just work on one-step inequalities, and we're going to work on some pretty basic ones. Tomorrow I have a couple more things that I would want to show you. If you will have your teacher now pass out the solving one-step inequalities page that looks like this. We're going to go through and notice you see some of the problems we actually just worked, but instead of having an equal sign, we're going to see our symbols that we learned yesterday, the less than sign, the greater than sign, the less than or equal to sign, or the greater than or equal to sign. So if we take a look at this one, this is actually a problem I worked just a few minutes ago, but I did it with an equal sign. But the way we solve that is no different. We would come in here and we would take 5 away, and we would do it on both sides here. And so then that leaves us with x. And then now instead of writing equal, we're just going to bring down that inequality. X is less than 1. And so we're going to also take that a step further in just a little bit, and we're going to graph it. So the difference between yesterday and today is yesterday I was telling you what x was greater than or less than 2, and today you're going to have to figure that out before then you can graph it. Okay, this is another problem I worked just a few minutes ago. So again, we're going to divide by that coefficient and do it to both sides, and so that those 9s cross out. X is greater than or equal to, again, 3/9, which is going to simplify down into the number 1/3. Okay, over here, same thing. We're going to come in, we're going to add 2 to both sides. Okay, and those are going to cancel out, and we would be left with x, and then 4 plus 2 would give us 6. Sorry, that got a little sloppy right there. All right here again, let's go ahead and work on this. We didn't work this one earlier, but this is one similar to what we worked on. So right now we're taking x and we're dividing it by 9. So we want to do that opposite operation. So instead of dividing by 9, we would want to come in and we'd want to multiply by 9. And then again, what I do to one side, I would also do to the other. So that allows those 9s right there to cancel out. And so we're left with x. Whoops, I just realized I made a mistake. Is less than or equal to 9 right here. I'm going to come back up here and fix my mistake. We are not working on algebra anymore, so that is not an equal sign that should have gone there. Should have had that less than symbol. I apologize for that. Okay, going on right here, we would come over and get rid of our constant, which is 10. So right now that's a positive 10. So we're going to take away 10, and what I do to one side, I would do to the other. So we're left with x on the left-hand side is greater than, and then we have 17, and remember that's take away 10. We're getting rid of that 10. Over here, this is a minus 10, so we're also going to minus 10. So 17 minus 10 would leave you with 7. Again, I want to encourage you all to come back in, and especially since this is new material, to plug these back in and see 10 plus 17, and that says is greater than 17. And so that says x is greater than 17. So the thing is, that didn't work, right? When you plug that in, that's because this says greater than. So you got to pick a number that's greater than 7 right here. And so if we pick 8, which is a number that would make that statement true, when we plug in an 8 right here, 10 plus 8 is 18, and it makes it true. 18 now is greater than 17. So, just like yesterday when we worked on possible solutions, that's what we would do here as well. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and let you guys go ahead and finish these up, and then we'll come back in and check your answers and see how you did. All right, we are back, and I want you to go ahead and check your answers and see how you did there. One of the things I want to draw your attention to is number 10. When you do number 10 and you simplified that, you probably ended up with a mixed number, or I'm sorry, an improper fraction. So please make sure that you convert that to a mixed number for your final answer. Again, make sure that you go back in and double check your answers. Make sure that you are getting those correct. All right, I'm going to go ahead and erase this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take what we've done today and what we did yesterday, and we're going to put those together. Today that so far we just worked on solving them, but I want to go ahead and now solve and graph so that we can put our two lessons together. So looking up here, let's go ahead. I'm going to choose blue this time. Let's go ahead, and some of these problems are the same or very similar. So right here we would take and we would add 2 and add 2, and that cancels out, and we're left with x is greater than 6. So this is where we pull in what we learned yesterday. So right here we're going to come in and we're going to put an open dot, remember, over 6. Now let's think about a number that would go in there for x, and so a number we could choose is 7 or 8. All of those would make that true. 7, 8, 10, those are all greater than 6. So that means our arrow is going to point in that direction in order to make those that a true statement. Okay, number 2, right now we're dividing x by 3, so in order to solve that we would want to multiply by 3, and what I do to one side I do to the other, and those 3's would cancel out, so I'm left with x is less than or equal to 7. So we're going to come in this time, and above that positive 7 we're going to put a closed dot. Remember, that is it can be less than 7, but it also can be equal to 7. So we're going to close that dot, and our arrow should point to the left this time. Okay. Over here, our coefficient is 6. So right now we're multiplying x by 6. So the opposite would be to divide by 6. So we come in and divide by 6. And when I do to one side, I do to the other. Our 6's would cancel out, and we're left with x is less than 5. So we're going to come in here to 5, put an open dot, and a number that would make that true would be 4 is less than 5, 0 is less than 5, and those numbers all fall on the left-hand side of that dot. So we're going to make that arrow point to the left. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause, and if the teachers will pause this lesson for a few minutes, I want you guys to finish these next 5 problems, and then we'll come in and check our answers. All right, welcome back. So hopefully you got the hang of this. There's the answer for number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So go ahead and check your answers with my answers, see how you did. All right. My first hour is not in here today. I'm recording this without students in it, so I didn't answer any questions today from students. But we can discuss those in our next lesson if there are some questions. If you have tried any of your iExcel at home, You may get to some lessons that it's a little bit harder because there's some negatives and positives that are involved in there. And so if you will hang tight on those, we are going to be working on those Wednesday during class and spend class time working on those lessons. So right now we are done solving one-step inequalities and graphing them. We are going to also talk about what happens when we multiply or divide by negative numbers. That changes a little bit. And then the last thing we'll do to wrap up this week is we'll work on a few two-step equations as well, making sure that we can solve two-step inequalities and graph those two-step inequalities. So hopefully that this isn't too bad for you guys. There's one more assignment that you need to complete independently. If you are in my class, these are go in your notebook. If you are at CI, you will be given instructions by your teacher on what to do with this material. Obviously, you need to be using it as study material to make sure that you are ready for your test on Friday. That is it for today, and we will talk to you tomorrow.